Within the English language, there are certain words that we just don't use very much anymore. Words like grand. Oh, it was such a grand old time. You just don't hear people say that anymore, or at least not here in the US you don't. Nonetheless, if you were to take that same idea and apply it in an automotive context, well, the vehicle you'd be describing would be over the top in any sense of the word, from size to luxurious amenities, performance, etc. And it also means that said vehicle will be ungodly expensive. But just suppose that Toyota took those same philosophies and applied them to what I would say is one of their more underrated three-row crossovers. You'd probably take notice pretty quick, and after spending a week with this new creation, I can certainly see why. In the ever-famous words of one Mr. George Carlin, people add extra words to make things sound more important than they really are. And the fact of the matter is, he's absolutely right. Here in 2024, everything in all of existence has just had all these little extra words added onto them to make them seem like they're better than they actually are. And in some cases, they may actually be worse. But I think in the case of this brand new Toyota Grand Highlander, the company may actually be onto something here. They didn't make it as lavish as a Lexus, but it is a huge step up from a regular Highlander. And it really pays dividends if you are a family looking for a little extra space, combined with the legendary reliability that Toyota has been known for forever. Now, I have driven every single generation of Highlander to date, from the very beginning all the way up to now. And I didn't think that its name could be improved upon in any way, at least in any kind of exponential form. But with this car, it has. Of course, any manufacturer could take an ordinary three-row crossover and tack on a few extra inches for good measure. But in Toyota's case, I really am glad to hear that they have listened to their customers and put their best nous, or at least their best foot, forward. I mean, they are moving forward, as their slogan suggests, but it really feels like this is something much more special than just an ordinary family crossover. And it should feel special when you consider that the Platinum model I have right here costs just under $60,000 as shown. Now, that's pretty competitive, especially when, having just recently driven the new Mazda CX-90, it costs about the same as Mazda's new flagship, but it doesn't behave like a more upper-end premium vehicle. It behaves like something that's been given a very refined treatment. It feels so much smoother to drive. It doesn't feel as wide or as cumbersome as some of its larger competition. It doesn't feel like it needs any extra performance to get you where you need to go. But oh ho, Toyota decided it did, because under the skin here is a turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, pretty much the same one you'd find in a regular Highlander, paired with, well, a pretty sad 6-speed automatic transmission. And thanks to some of Toyota's newest Hybrid Max wizardry, this whole setup makes 362 horsepower and 400 foot-pounds of torque. You did just hear me right, didn't you? And just like a lot of these other three-row crossovers I've driven, one thing that has mystified me is why they would put a sport mode in a Toyota Highlander. I mean, I never really had a need for speed with something like this, but I am curious to try it, so I'll put it in sport. The gauges turn their bright red color. Let's get a taste of that 400 pound-feet of torque. Let's see what it'll do. Oh, damn! Okay then. Now, I'm never one to feel like I absolutely have to have something in life, but if I ever felt the need to upgrade my vehicle size from a 4-door sedan to a 3-row family crossover, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that the Grand Highlander, despite having driven more lavishly appointed vehicles, is quickly creeping up towards the top of my favorites list. I have enjoyed every single aspect, despite knowing in the back of my mind that at its current price point, I could never dream of affording one. But getting the opportunity to do so and feel even the smallest of details, like how soft the steering can be and how compliant the ride feels even after hundreds of miles of driving this thing, this really is one of the best mid-size 3-row crossovers, or at least on the larger end of that scale, that I've ever been behind the wheel of. And I truly mean it. While certain components of this new model do define it as a modern Toyota product, like its new Hybrid Max powertrain, and of course its more extended length over the standard car, what I feel I'm looking at here is Toyota going back into their archives and pulling out some of their older designs and mixing them with a splash of their modern taste, just to create kind of a nice balanced look, if you will. And before you even get to the details, can we just take a moment and admire this car's color, the Storm Cloud Gray? Parked in the shade here, or even in the sun, it's not quite gray, but nor is it like a denim blue either. It's like a really dark stone-washed pair of blue jeans, and I love it. Now, I don't have kids, and at least I don't plan to in the near future, but if I did, I would probably get one of these or something like it in this color. I absolutely love it. But once you get past the color and you start looking at the details, it is a bit peculiar, because what I'm seeing here at the front is like an old Highlander from, say, the mid 2010s or so, like 2013-ish, mixed with a new 4Runner and some BZ4X for good measure. I said the latter because, well, look at the headlights. You've got these angular, somewhat curved lighting units here with the LED daytime running light and turn signal going across the top. You have LED headlights, high and low, auto high beam assist, and even the little mini LED fog lights in the lower corners. Now, you can distinguish this model as the Platinum from the silver lip going along the bottom, and they have given it a bit of bling with this nice little chrome strip that covers up the top of what I would call the snout here, because it is a little more of an angle. It sticks out a bit further. But don't think that just because that snout is part of a very nicely styled grille, might I add, that it has any sort of function, because yeah, it doesn't go anywhere or do anything. It is open along the bottom, however, so that turbo Hybrid Max powertrain does get a good bit of airflow. And speaking of getting a good bit of something, for this price point, technology is everywhere. Intuitive park assist, 360 camera, you have forward collision warning, forward traffic warning, rear collision warning, rear collision braking. I mean, you want safety for your family? This has pretty much everything you want. If the design wasn't enough of a mind trick already, then the length will definitely get you, because visually this car looks so much bigger than its standardized sibling. Although on paper this car is only 4 inches longer exactly at 201.4 inches than a standard Toyota Highlander. Now, I know they say every inch counts, but while the length may be a bit impressive, what's not as impressive to me, again visually speaking, are the wheels. Now, it's not so much the design. I love the machine face with the dark gray inserts in the middle. It's the fact that these are 20-inch wheels on this Platinum model, but because of the fatter sidewall on these 255 series Continental tires, they do look a bit smaller than they're supposed to be. If you are that type of person who also likes to go big or go home, well, not only do you have the advantage over standard Highlander owners with your extended length, but you pretty much have everything Toyota can throw at one of these cars with this Platinum trim level, well, at least outside of their Lexus brand. And some of the things on this car seem a little bit gimmicky to me, like, for example, the silver roof rails. I don't exactly know that I need those. I would prefer them in gloss black, to say the least, or even just the standard black plastic ones. But if you're paying all the money, things like the panoramic roof, that is something I would definitely want. Same thing with smaller things like the power folding exterior mirrors. Now, they have LED turn signals, they have the camera underneath, blind spot monitoring, and they even have Lexus-like puddle lamps that will project the Grand Highlander name down in front of the door. And speaking of said door, if you want a little extra, you get advanced keyless access as standard on pretty much every model. And what's nice about this key is if you don't want to get it mixed in with, say, your friend's Toyota key, well, just look at the back, because hidden in there is a Grand Highlander insignia. But aside from that, everything is as expected. Lock, unlock, power tailgate, panic, and of course the nice little Toyota emblem emblazoned on the bottom, which is kind of surprising that this one doesn't have the blue highlight to it, seeing how this model is the hybrid. But it works like every other one. Have the key in your hand, grab the handle, and then to lock it, there's the little indention at the front. What I think is the most perplexing part of this car, however, is looking at it from the rear. Whereas the front, like I said, is a pretty eclectic mix of old and new, what it looks like they did back here is just made the rear end a little bit taller, obviously longer as well, and then glued on a slightly twisted version of the same taillights you'll find on a current generation RAV4. And you can see it when you look at, say, the curvature of these LED lights. Now, everything is LED back here: reverse lights, turn signals, tail lights, you get the picture. I love how they've also joined them with this gloss black separator in the middle, and instead of some gaudy chrome badge, they've stamped the Grand Highlander name into the tailgate itself. Now, speaking of badges, there is one I like, which is the new Hybrid Max badge. I love the little logo right here. That's starting to become a common theme as more and more Toyotas become hybridized versus internal combustion. And as you get a bit lower as well, you can see intuitive park assist and a very nice set of aluminum dual exhaust. Now, you don't just buy something like this just because it looks good. You buy it because it's a good size, practical vehicle. So as you walk up, kick your foot under the trunk and open the power tailgate here via the hands-free access, you suddenly reveal what is a very surprising amount of room back here for a mid-size crossover, or at least on the larger end of the mid-size category. Behind that third row is 20.6 cubic feet of usable cargo volume. Now, that sounds like plenty if you really need space for up to 7 people. But if you want to go a bit further, you fold the third row down, that increases to right around 58 cubic feet of cargo volume. Now, you're sitting right at the top of most of today's compact crossovers, but it doesn't stop there. Fold down the third and second row, and that increases to a staggering 97.5 cubic feet of cargo volume. That is way more than enough that if it's just you and one other person, you can pack pretty much your entire household into the back of this thing. And that is where the Grand in Grand Highlander really pays dividends. With names like Grand Highlander, let alone Platinum at play here, well, if you're somebody who wants every single gadget, gizwiz, and goodie in Toyota's book thrown in as standard, well, the Platinum model is the one you need to see. You want a nice interior? Well, I would say this one is nice, but you wouldn't want a sibling rivalry within your own manufacturer. So it's not quite as nice as, say, a Lexus interior, but the brown leather, I absolutely love this color. They've got suede accents in the seats. They're heated, ventilated, and it's even better when you can turn around, sit in these incredibly comfortable seats, and grab a hold of a heated, leather-wrapped steering wheel. But if you're more of a computer-minded person, again, the Platinum model has your answer. Because, well, for one, you have a brand new Toyota Safety Sense system with every ancillary you could want, including what I would say is one of the more necessary features for an active driving suite, which is the mode button on the steering wheel. If you don't like the car interfering as much, push that and it will toggle between adaptive radar cruise and a regular cruise control system. And if perhaps you don't like your gauge cluster to be wild and crazy like Toyota's is in the Tundra and Sequoia, well, this one fits the bill. It is very subdued, just like the rest of the interior. It has your main gauges, and you can put not only various bits of driving aids in the middle, but also your navigation in the center as well. But beyond that, That's where the tech gets a little bit weird in here, let alone with the interior design at the same time, because, well, I have paddles on the back of the wheel in this car, and I didn't even know they were there until about maybe 3 or 4 days into driving this thing, and it's just completely unnecessary. This is a family crossover, not a race car. But if you think that's weird, check out the little hump between the wheel and your gauge cluster. That is not just some design feature, that is a driver monitor. Don't think you can sit too low in the seat or drive one-handed like so many of us like to do here in the States, because, well, you'll get a little message on your dashboard telling you that either it can't see your face or that you're sitting too low and you need to sit up. I mean, talk about Big Brother watching you. While the oddities may exist, however, there is some evidence of more Toyota-y-ness going on in here. In essence, I'm talking about familiar features that we've seen in so many of their products before, like a digital rear view mirror. Before you even get to the console, I always check the mirror in a lot of these Toyota cars that I get to drive, and 9 out of 10 of them have the digital mirror in them. Same thing with the giant 12.3-inch high-definition infotainment display staring you right in the face, which, fun fact, this screen in the middle is the same size, or I guess vice versa, as the digital gauge cluster that you can stare at while you're driving. Now, in the infotainment, we know what's in it. The new Toyota Highlights infotainment system with navigation, Bluetooth, wireless CarPlay, and wireless Android Auto. All things that you have come to know, at least for me. It also has the display for the 360 camera. Surprise, surprise there. But one of the more underwhelming elements, I guess, of the entertainment system as a whole is the 11-speaker JBL audio system. Now, it's not the sound quality that's the letdown. It's that this car is so big, I would have expected that, comparatively speaking, it would have more speakers in it. I'm not saying I need a zillion, but competitors to this have shown that they can fit 15 or even 20 speakers inside of a car of relatively the same size. So to only have 11, well, it sounds like a bit of a letdown, but the sound quality is still there.
I didn't want to see you when you came home, 'cause you always try to hurt me, and that's so low.
Even more so, if you are a tech head but have more of a simplistic mind, fear not. Your front third, yeah, you did just hear me right, the front third of the climate control, the buttons are huge, everything is all there. Heated, cooled seats, you've got these nice little digital displays for your temperature controls, and then you move down, you have a wireless charger, you have plenty of storage in here, right down to this huge center console. Now, it doesn't look very wide, but I mean, it is deep. It goes all the way up to my elbow here, for Pete's sake. And then you have that peculiar little stubby of a shifter right here in the middle. I've seen it in everything from the Prius up to the Lexus LC500. All the shifter modes are just as weird as you want. Up to the left is reverse, in the middle is neutral, down and to the left is drive, and then pull it straight back to go into the unnecessary manual mode. But then you get to some fun stuff like your drive mode select that I was talking about earlier, which you have eco, normal, and sport, as I talked about, but then you have rock and dirt, or mud and sand. I never imagined someone taking this car off-roading, but at least it's nice to know that it's there. Now, having been a rear passenger in a normal Toyota Highlander on numerous occasions, getting into the back of this new Grand Highlander, it feels almost exactly the same, but the key word there is almost, because you look around a bit and just kind of take things at a glance, and the differences do make themselves known. We are in the Platinum model here, so the first thing you need to know is that getting into these second row captain's chairs means you go from being just a rear passenger to feeling like you're sitting in the first class seat on an airliner. Okay, that's a bit excessive, but you have an armrest clad in the same leather as the seating surfaces, and you even had a nice little bit of storage with your cup holders and what feel like rubberized phone grips on either side. But then, that technology, oh, it comes into play. Again, the second third of the climate controls pasted all over the back of the console. Heated and cooled outboard seats, say less. You've got USB-Cs everywhere. You even have a 1500 watt, 120 volt alternating current household style plug should your electric needs become a little more grand. Ha ha. Now, if I had done what I just did, getting into the third row here in a normal Highlander, well, I'd be a sardine at this point, especially, again, being over 6 feet tall. But that is where the Grand Highlander really comes into its own. You do have at least a good bit of extra room back here in the third row. Would I say it's the biggest improvement that the Highlander needed? Probably, but also probably not, because if I pulled that second row seat all the way back, again, being a taller guy, well, I'm not exactly going to be the most comfortable, but I will still have at least a little more wiggle room while sitting atop what are easily the most comfortable third row seats I've ever sat in out of the mid-size crossover category. Now, I was completely wrong in one thing. I mentioned that this had essentially 3 rows worth of climate controls. It doesn't. It only has 3 zones. So you have the 2 in the front and the 1 in the middle, and all you get back here in the third row, at least for entertainment, are 2 USB-C chargers, 1 on each side. I do like the little fixture that they're mounted on. And then you have, well, cup holders aplenty. There are 6 in the third row seats, and as if you needed any more. And on that note, everybody, this wraps up our review and drive of the all-new 2024 Toyota Grand Highlander. You know, I think we need to start bringing back the old terms, because after spending some time with this much larger version of the standard Highlander, I can certainly see why Toyota needed to add the Grand in the name. I mean, it really is a step up from just the base Highlander. If you need the space and you need the extra amenities, this is the area in which you need to aim. But anyways, if you've enjoyed this video, or perhaps you learned something about the new Grand Highlander today, please give this video a thumbs up, and also while you're at it, hit the subscribe button down below, because trust me, stuff like this is not possible, not only without subscribers and viewers like yourselves, but without partnerships like Toyota USA. I have no idea where we would be. But in any event, I hope you enjoyed the review, and I will see you all in the next one. Take care, everybody, and stay safe.